Darren Marble. I've been sober almost 5 years. The one thing that was kind of nagging me in the back of my mind was that I'd always wanted to be an entrepreneur. And in the midst of my career selling Oracle software, I started a company. I had an income, I had a career. What I really wanted was to have a successful business.
So how did you get started with Issuance? Did you always want to start a business?
I started Issuance a few years ago because one of the hardest things that companies do is raise capital.
Yeah.
And it's really tricky to grow a business without some kind of outside capital at some point in the company's trajectory.
Yeah.
And we have been in the financial marketing space for a number of years, and we have a lot of experience helping private companies raise capital to build their businesses. And so the concept for Issuance was really to make it faster, easier, cheaper for companies to raise money and do just that.
I see. And did you always want to start a business? Like, how did this idea bud come into fruition?
So I spent 10 years selling enterprise software. I sold Oracle database and applications to big Fortune 500 companies for a decade, and had success as a sales executive and was managing a team. But at one point, I just had that itch. There was something else I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And I actually didn't have an idea for the business at the time.
Yeah.
And I had a good friend who had a concept for a company, and it sounded like a good concept. Initially, it was to connect filmmakers in the entertainment industry. And that was really the first business I started 10 years ago. It was a company called Film Break. And that was the beginning of my entrepreneurial journey, which has led me to today and the companies I own and operate. And I think it's something that you just have to trust your gut. It's that kind of curiosity, or there's an intrigue. And if you feel unsatisfied in your career, or maybe you're satisfied with the money you're making, but you want something more, you want another challenge, you just have to follow your intuition and know that that means something, that you need something else to, be satisfied in your professional life. And for me, it was starting a business, and I was in tune with my gut. I went for it, and it turned out to be the most satisfying decision I've ever made, and certainly has its ups and downs and challenges, but I wouldn't change it for anything.
Wow. And were you scared once you left your job and do your own thing?
Yeah, definitely. I think the scary thought that most entrepreneurs face is, can I actually do it?
Yeah.
What if it doesn't work?
Yeah.
What if I run out of money? And here's how I looked at that. And I think for everybody, the evaluation is slightly different. But for me, I'd spent 10 years in enterprise sales. I was a senior sales executive, and I was successful in that career. And so what occurred to me was that there's no guarantee of success if I start my own company. And the risk was probably high because I had never run a business before. So I figured there was a lot that I was about to get into that I didn't really have a formula for, or a template or a game plan for, but I would learn by trial and error. What I also realized is that in a worst case scenario, if my business failed, that I could always go back to doing the thing I was doing before. And so that gave me confidence to go forth and start a business. And I think that's something to be considered, that if you have a skill and you're able to monetize that skill in the market, and you have experience in some industry, that realistically you can probably go back to doing that thing you were doing if it doesn't work out. And the only way to know if you're going to be successful is to do it. And I think it's a tough decision for most entrepreneurs, but that was kind of my thinking at the time.
I see. And how did you transition into it? Were you kind of working on your business like a side hustle thing while you were doing your job, or did you quit and start from zero?
No, I was doing the side hustle for 4 years. So I had a career in software sales and was doing well, and started the business on the side, really because we weren't making any money at the time. And I think entrepreneurs, in retrospect, if I were to have, to do it all again, I would have left my day job a lot faster because the truth is, it's really hard to build and scale a company on a part-time basis.
Yeah.
It's probably the most challenging thing you could ever do in this world, is start a company and have it succeed. I mean, the odds are they're stacked against you. Most businesses fail, and that's very daunting. And so entrepreneurs need to put themselves in the best possible position to achieve success. And most of the time that means going all in. And so the irony was that while I was doing my side hustle, my company was starting it on the side.
Yeah.
It didn't truly take off until I left my day job and I gave it 100%. And then, of course, it started working.
Yeah.
And, that's another interesting thing, which is when you're dependent on yourself and you can't fail.
Yeah.
A lot of really interesting things happen. You find out what you're truly made of, what you're truly capable of. And things can start working because it's a little bit like fight or flight. Like, you have to make it work.
Yeah.
You have to close the deal. You have to get money into the company. And that just drives you to, extend yourself and do whatever it takes to meet those goals.
And did you have was there any super driving force that made you quit your job, or was that just itch that you wanted to try something of your own? Was it something significant that really pushed you?
I mean, I think I was just bored in what I was doing. And, I'd been doing it for a long time. What to me felt like a long time was 5 years, 6 years into a career. And I was unfulfilled. And so that was really the main driver, is I was looking for another challenge. And, I wanted to see what else was out there. I wanted to see what I was capable of. And I wanted to create my own financial freedom. I wanted to not have to be on someone else's schedule and be accountable to myself instead of be accountable to a manager, who's accountable to another manager and another manager.
Yeah.
I was just tired of that format. I was tired of that model and all of those things together. And then this curiosity to try something new collectively, drove me to start a company and leave my job.
Because we don't know the guests who come on the podcast, it's like a first interaction. So a question to you would be, what's your story? Like you as a person since the beginning, you would say.
Man, my story is I had a great upbringing, a great childhood. I'm from the Bay Area in California.
I see.
And I went to UCLA for college. And my story is I got sidetracked. I got lost at that school. I got lost in college. The school was too big. I wasn't prepared for the sheer size of the campus and the thousands and thousands of students. It was such a drastic change.
Yeah.
And I got distracted and ended up dropping out of school in my 5th year. So I'm a college dropout. And then I got into sales. I found a talent for sales, and initially it was inside sales. I was setting appointments. I was in the loan business. I got hired into the software sales industry when I started working for Oracle. And I had the good fortune of finding a great mentor, which is also super important.
Which was in your company?
I found somebody that saw a talent in me and saw that I could nurture that talent and wanted to nurture that talent in me. And so I found a mentor who spent a lot of time teaching me and coaching me and giving me confidence in myself and helping me hone my skills and refine my skills. And then I invested time into that coach, into that mentor, into that industry, and that became the foundation for me to start a company. So it was a bit of a windy road. It wasn't, maybe a traditional path.
Yeah.
And I guess it all led to, it was all meant to be. So that's my story in a nutshell.
How did you find that mentor? Was the person in your company?
It was actually the person that hired me. I forgot to mention an important part of the story. So probably from the time I was in college, maybe late high school years to college, I started drinking and partying. and smoke a lot of weed.
Yeah.
And those were the things that were essentially distracting me at my time in college. And, I found out that I have an addictive personality, that's in my DNA. Yeah. And I became a slave to my addictions. And yet I was still able to have a career in sales and find some success. I was a big wine drinker for a number of years. And so the same coach that hired me into the Oracle community and saw the talent as a business professional, he also became a personal coach. And he helped me to see that if I wanted to transition outside of that career and become a successful entrepreneur, that I needed to make a big change in my life. And so he encouraged me to quit drinking. And so I've been sober for 6 years. Wow. And that decision has been so critical to my success and my growth as an entrepreneur. I'm laser focused. I'm never distracted by drugs or alcohol. I don't have any hangovers. I don't waste money on those things anymore. Yeah. I choose better words when I speak. I have a better disposition and energy on a day-to-day basis. So that's another part of the story that's worth noting is, I had this distraction in my personal and professional life. I was able to recognize that those things and those habits were not benefiting me. And in fact, they were distracting me from my real goals. And once I was able to own those problems and make a conscious decision to change my behavior, that's when the door started to really open up for me. And it was about 2 years into my sobriety that I was able to finally make the move from, working for an employer to starting my own business. Yeah. And for anybody out there who's watching this or hearing this, I encourage you to consider making the same change because it was game-changing for me. And so that one decision to stop drinking was instrumental to building a successful company and putting all my energy and my addictive tendencies into something productive. Yeah. So I'm still the same person I was. Yeah. I focus my obsessiveness into generating revenue, signing deals, raising money. Right. And it's been the best thing I've ever done.
Wow. Like you take the same tendency and you just channelize them into like a positive direction.
Exactly.
And would you say because you went through those experiences, that's been like a big part of what you've been able to accomplish today?
Absolutely. I don't think I would be where I am today as an entrepreneur if I were still drinking. And, maybe for somebody else, they can do it. But for me, it was a critical decision and a critical change in lifestyle that had to happen before I could actually spread my wings and fly. And since that day that I stopped drinking, we've generated millions of dollars in revenue. We've marketed historic IPOs to NASDAQ and the New York Stock Exchange. And now we're launching a groundbreaking original series where we're taking companies public to NASDAQ. And for the first time ever, we're allowing viewers to invest in the IPOs. All of these things were predicated upon a personal decision to be healthier and to focus my time and my talents in a direction that was actually going to pay off. And it was totally critical.
That's amazing. And when you dropped out of your college, wasn't it difficult to get hired by a company then?
Definitely. I think that's something that everybody has to consider. And, it turns out that there are certain things, of course, you can't do without a degree, but there are also things that you can do. Yeah. And it turns out that sales is one of those skills that is highly valued in a particular company that doesn't technically require a degree. An employer may ask for you to have a degree to be considered, but if you can sell, then you're generally valued at any business. That's what moves the needle in any company. I don't care whether it's technology or manufacturing, doesn't matter. The lifeblood of a business is based on its ability to sell its product or service to a customer base. And so I was fortunate that I went into the sales field because, to your point, you can't be a doctor without a degree. You can't be a lawyer without a degree.
Yeah.
You need degrees to pursue certain fields, but there are others that, there's workarounds. And so while I was not qualified for certain jobs, I was qualified for others, and I found a talent in sales and went for it.
And would you say that you were naturally talented towards sales, or did you really teach yourself on how to go about it, how to deal with people and things like that?
I think it was a natural ability, and I had, some innate sales talent, but it was definitely nurtured, and I learned a lot over time. I don't believe you just start out as a natural salesperson. Yeah. You might have an ability to communicate with people and to get people excited, and so those are seeds of a sales talent that can and should be nurtured. And I had done a couple sales-oriented jobs when I was much younger. I sold knives, Cutco knives, when I was a teenager, going door to door. And you don't realize it at the time, but you're selling and you're learning certain sales skills, how to set a meeting with the neighbor.
Yeah.
All right, Mrs. Smith, I'll come by tomorrow afternoon after school, and I'm going to go through this presentation. I'll see you there. Yeah. And, you ask for the order. Okay, Mrs. Smith, so I'm going to sell you $50 worth of knives, and here's the order form, and what's your credit card? Pull it out. Those are all really, the building blocks of sales, and was able to leverage those over time.
Would you say you always, you obviously from a young age had the entrepreneurial tendencies? So would you say you kind of knew that was something that you were capable? A lot of people are good at business, but not a lot of people are kind of meant to be entrepreneurs, because there's so much that goes into doing it all by yourself.
I don't think so. I don't think I realized that I had entrepreneurial tendencies until years after I left college. I think I had ideas, and if I look back, there were a couple things that I wrote down on paper and had an idea for a product or a business, but it didn't end up in more than one page of notes. So maybe there was an inkling of, or a seed for entrepreneurship, but it definitely didn't occur to me that I would want to be a business owner when I was a teenager. And I know there's stories of some people starting businesses when they're 13 or 14 or 15, and they turn out to be billionaires later in life because they got a head start on everybody else. That really wasn't me. So I didn't have that desire or passion for it that I do now. It developed over time for me.
And one question we really touched on the podcast is, are you happy?
I'm very happy. I think I'm happier now than I've ever been. But, the caveat is that being an entrepreneur is very challenging. And, the truth is, I'm happiest when my business has cash in the bank. And so right now we have cash in the bank. And so I'm happy because I don't have to be as stressed out as I have been. And there are times as an entrepreneur when we didn't have a lot of cash, or we were running out of cash. And those were admittedly not happy times. It's really hard to be, happy and your company's running out of money. In fact, you're generally stressed and anxious and uncertain. And so my happiness, for better or worse, is sometimes a reflection of how my business is performing. Now, outside of the business, I have a family. I have 2 kids. They're awesome, 8 and 5. And my family is a source of happiness. Yet I'm an entrepreneur. And so those things they're really tough to separate. But no, at the moment, I'm quite happy and thankful, and feel very fortunate to be in the position I'm in. And it's taken years and years of work to build the business I have. It wasn't easy. Yeah. And certainly there will be challenges ahead that need to be overcome too.
And the business that you're working on today requires a lot of knowledge and insights. Where did you really learn something like that?
I learned it through trial and error, and by acquiring a lot of domain expertise in one particular industry. We became experts in marketing IPOs using a securities exemption here in the United States called Regulation A+. And we were pioneers in the industry and involved in some of the earliest deals where companies raised capital using this new securities exemption. And by spending 4 years absorbing, now 5, absorbing knowledge, reading every article, talking to hundreds and hundreds of potential clients, companies that wanted to raise capital, getting networked with securities attorneys, audit firms, investment banks, broker-dealers, attending dozens of conferences, speaking at dozens of conferences, and really going all in one industry. We became experts. We became leaders. And, you have to really soak it up, and you have to become an expert in your industry. And maybe you train for it, you go to school for it, maybe you learn it, you dive in head first, and it definitely takes time, but it is possible to acquire a mass amount of expertise in an industry that you maybe don't come from. Yeah. And so for us, and for me, it was just building up knowledge over time, and again, obsessively focused on one particular industry. And, over 5 years, we became industry leaders.
Amazing. And would you say there's this like one moment in your life that changed everything? Like one significant moment, whether it was a book, whether it was a belief, something that really shaped you as a person you are today?
Well, since we're talking about, entrepreneurship, the moment that changed my trajectory as an entrepreneur, it was a particular deal. And so we had been, before we started marketing IPOs, we were marketing Kickstarter campaigns, rewards-based crowdfunding campaigns. In fact, we had done 100 rewards-based crowdfunding marketing campaigns over 3 years. And then we got an introduction to an entrepreneur named Paul Elio, who is the founder and CEO of an automotive startup called Elio Motors. And they have a 3-wheeled, 2-seat vehicle that they want to bring to market. And it's designed to get, 84 miles a gallon and sell for $7,000. And it could be a commuter vehicle for the masses. And when we got that introduction, Paul said, it appears, Darren, you've got a great track record in storytelling and digital marketing for crowdfunding campaigns. Yeah. But I don't want to hire you guys to do a crowdfunding campaign. I want to do an equity crowdfunding campaign. I want to market an investment and allow my customers and fans to become owners in my business, to become shareholders. And when we signed that contract, it was the largest cash contract we had ever signed. We sold the deal for $100,000 cash and $100,000 in stock. And we had never signed a contract like that. And so I knew that, there was an opportunity here. But moreover, we had like 3 weeks to put the campaign together. We wanted to launch the campaign the day that this new securities exemption was going to be enacted in the United States. It was June 19th, 2015. That was the launch date. And so it was basically the fastest campaign we had to ever put together. And I also knew that this campaign could put us in the map. And it was a car company. So as a marketer, how often do you have an opportunity to do a very creative campaign for a car company? There's just so much possibility in the storytelling and the narrative and the design and the theme. Yeah. And I realized that moment could change the game for us. And we basically didn't sleep for 3 weeks. We had a team of 10 people that designed and implemented the campaign. And then we launched it on June 19th, 2015, and we made history along with Elio and the crowdfunding platform that we brought the deal to. And that company ended up raising $17 million from 6,500 investors, retail investors, everyday Americans, customers, and fans. And that one deal changed the trajectory of my business. We started getting calls from brokers on Wall Street and, got networked with Wall Street executives and securities attorneys and all these different firms that I really didn't have an awareness of. Yeah. And it was because we performed incredibly well on one deal. And so, there's that Eminem song. It's like, you've got one chance. Is it you're going to blow it or you're going to do it? And for me, this was the chance, and we converted. And so that one deal changed the trajectory of my company, and we were able to capitalize on it and run with it.
Wow, and this was in 2015?
Yes.
And was it a little intimidating when you received an offer like that? Because it sounds very It sounds intimidating, like, and it's very new, where your customers are equity holders.
Yeah, I don't think it was, maybe it was intimidating. It was more, we were just under a lot of pressure. I knew that this was a make or break campaign for my company. And so you just kind of go into this, like, it's not even survival mode. You go into beast mode. I figured if we knock this campaign out of the park, we could be in a whole nother category. We could generate millions of dollars in revenue instead of tens of thousands. And we just engaged the right people very quickly, and we put every ounce of energy into delivering and exceeding the expectations of our client. We outperformed, we over-delivered, and that was really what we had to do. We had to deliver an incredible campaign for our client. And their success was all that mattered. Because if they were successful, then we were successful.
Yeah.
So we put the client above our own needs. We didn't get a lot of sleep, and it was a very intense few weeks. But we rallied around, a vision to make this company massively successful and to give them every part of our being and our focus and attention to deliver a great project for them, and we did. And I'm glad we were given that opportunity.
Wow, that's amazing. And I discovered you through Mike. What's your relationship with him?
Mike is a rock star. Mike is living the dream, and he's going to be your next guest because I'm going to tell him he needs to go figure it out and make it happen. I met Mike through a company that we were going to do an IPO for called Lovesac.
Yeah. And
Lovesac ended up doing an IPO on their own without us, had a lot of success, and Mike was their PR and social media director. And so that's how I met Mike. I spent some time with him in Utah, and now Mike lives down the street from me in the valley here in Southern California.
Yeah.
And he made his own decision to go all in, and now he's living the dream. He's Logan Paul's best friend.
Yeah.
They live together. They work together.
Yeah.
And Mike went all in on his own dream to be a content creator, and I think he's just crushing it. So I'm really proud of him and looking forward to seeing him on your podcast.
Oh, thank you so much. That means a lot. I dropped out of college too in my first year, and the first time I discovered YouTube, it was the first time that my world just opened. I mean, a whole new world opened. I did not know something like this existed. Where young people are just working hard and making money. I thought you just make money, when you get old, you run a business, or, you have a great employer once you have a lot salary, once you're in your 50s and 60s. But now seeing young people just putting in the work and a whole new market that had opened before us, with the internet and everything, it really, I was able to, it lit up my eyes because I felt like I have no passion and things like that. I really prayed to find something that makes my eyes sparkle. And when I saw something like this,
sure,
I just opened up. And then I had to just learn by myself by watching Shark Tank, and watching, reading business books. And
sure.
Gary has been a huge mentor. And I did not know how to move forward from this step. My dream and where I was a huge gray area. And what I learned was just to make the littlest, with the littlest information possible, just execute on that. And because he says, people are your biggest ROI, I said, let's start networking with people into the whole podcast thing. But I said I'm back in India and my dream is to move to LA and we're just working towards it. I might move in the next 2 months. And
oh my gosh.
Yes.
Come on out. We got your back.
Really, that means a lot. Thank you so much.
That'd be so exciting to see you here.
Yeah, I've been working on it for 2 years and I did not know anyone in LA. So podcast was a huge way where I was able to build relationships and build credibility. So, once I'm out there, I have, some people who have my back and things of that nature.
Sure.
And one of the biggest ways to learn, Gary said, was to intern for people for free and, just tasting things and learning and really developing yourself. So that was my strategy. And the whole podcast was a back end, game plan to kind of get the ball rolling once I'm there. So that's how Logan has been a huge inspiration, Mike as well. So if it was difficult to get to them, I just hustled my way through, the people they would know, and building credibility and building relationships with them, and that's how I reached you.
Well, that's great. No, I would love to see you make it to LA, and I think I'm a fan and supporter already. I appreciate the opportunity to be on your podcast and share my story with you and your viewers. And I think you'll crush it when you're here. You're clearly a step ahead, and would love to be a resource for you when you make it out.
Thank you. That means a lot. What would you say is your end goal? What would you say is your ambition now?
My end goal is to change my industry. We want to change the way that companies raise capital and make it easier for smaller businesses to raise capital and grow their businesses. So we're motivated by the entrepreneurial spirit, and we are wanting to transform capital markets with our series, the Going Public series, and of course, make some money in the process. I think we have the opportunity to do both.
And when do you think is the good decision for companies to know that they want to raise capital? Because so many times people have an idea and they think that raising capital is like a shortcut, that is something they need to do before even they have some profit or revenue themselves.
Yeah, it's a great point. I think companies should, as much as they can, try to not raise capital. The most successful entrepreneurs I know were able to solve a problem and get paid by customers before going out and raising money. Mm-hmm. And so I think the first thing an entrepreneur needs to do is figure out, is there a problem that affects a large group of people, and can they sell a product or service to that group of people and generate revenue by doing so? That's the first thing any entrepreneur should be focused on. How do you make money? Yeah. Right? If you start a business and think that your objective is to raise capital, you've got it backwards. Yeah. Your objective is to solve a problem and get paid for it first and foremost. Then you say, well, if I had $500,000 or if I had $100,000, I could solve this problem faster and we could acquire 10 times more customers. Then it makes sense to go out and look at raising money, and you've got a much better story to investors because you can demonstrate that you have seen a problem in the market, you've developed a product or service to address that problem, and you've effectively gone and marketed that product or service to the end user and sold it. And so that's how I'd look at starting a business, is how do you generate revenue first and foremost, and then go out and do it? Yeah. And then think about using outside investment as a means to scale that existing business.
So would you say you act like as a middle person for the entrepreneur to the investors and have them link up?
We're a connector. In some ways, what we're doing is replacing the role of an investment bank to some degree. So rather than have an investment bank go out and take the investment to their traditional clients and investors, we are providing a platform that allows the company raising money to go directly to the investor, their customers, their fans, anybody over the age of 18 globally. So we're attempting to remove a middleman in our process, and we have a platform that allows these companies to go direct to investors. That's where we see the industry headed, is letting companies go directly to the crowd for their investment.
I have a question. Excuse my ignorance. So once an entrepreneur would come to you and say that, we would want to raise capital, and if you felt like their business is not as good and they're not credible enough to raise capital, would you advise them no, because that would kind of mess with your credibility to the investors?
Absolutely. We walk away from deals all the time for different reasons. We don't think the companies are fundable. We don't think they have enough traction. We might just not like the founders. There may be some issues with the founders, and we do the best we can to work with great companies, great founders that are solving real problems in their market. And it's tempting. Sometimes you can get a company that wants to pay you a fee. Yeah. And just there's something about the deal or the team that doesn't sit well. And so the temptation is, well, I'm going to get paid, so I'll take the deal. Yeah. But sometimes the smarter decision is to walk away because it's a toxic deal or toxic people. And, life is short. I want to work with good people. I want to work with people that I get along with and who inspire me to be a better person, to be a better entrepreneur. Yeah. So we consistently walk away from projects pretty much every month. We tend to be very selective about who we work with.
And are you very conscious about the kind of people, like you said, you're pitching to the investors so that it does not mess with your credibility? So when the investors know that this entrepreneur is coming from you, they have trust in him because they have trust in you?
I think so. Yeah, and we've learned a lot over the years. We've been involved in dozens of deals at this point, and the further down this road we go, the more important it is for me to choose good companies and good people. And like any entrepreneur or business, we've made mistakes. We've picked the wrong companies or the wrong people at certain points in the past few years. And sometimes you have to make those mistakes. You have to learn what a bad deal is. You have to learn what a toxic founder is or a bad actor in order to know what a good founder is. And so we've had a lot of experience working with different companies, and we now know exactly who we want to work with and maintain that credibility in the market.
So over the years, you've learned how to kind of read people, so who's genuine and who's just kind of faking it to get money and stuff.
Correct. And more often than not, you trust your gut. You have a meeting with someone, and sometimes your gut is the most valuable thing to listen to.
100%. I was just reading this article, on the power of our brain, and it says that we have two brains. One is our brain, and then the second is our gut. Our inner thing that's kind of indicating us, what might be right and what might not be the way to go about it. So 100%.
Sure. I love that.
Yeah, I was just reading it, so I thought it was funny. Another thing I had to ask was, now that you built a business and stuff, what do you think is something you're looking for in young people? If an ideal employee you would want to hire, or just advice for young people in that area, what kind of characteristic one must focus on?
I think one of the things that I look for in people is their drive. How bad does somebody want to succeed? Because that drive will play out positively in a number of different ways. Sure, you want somebody that has some skills and some experience, but I look for ambition, and I call that striving talent. People that are striving to succeed, they want to prove something, they want to prove themselves, they want to make money, they want to perform. I look for people that are ambitious and that have drive more than anything else. And the other thing that I look for are people that are exceptionally proactive. So if you're given a certain task, then delivering on that task would be, meeting the expectation. But if that employee then sees there's some other problem in the business they came across, and they're going to proactively approach me with a creative way to solve it, and it's not even something I asked them to do, they did it on their own, that's a winner. That's the type of person that we want to work with.
I was actually wondering, because I wanted this advice. I wasn't sure what I bring to the table, when someone would want to hire me. And one of the biggest debates I was having with people is, character versus skill set. What would you bet on, a person with skill set or a person with character? Because I always felt hard work beats talent. So no matter how hardworking a person might be, if you will work twice as hard or thrice as hard, like you said, if you wanted more, you're eventually going to succeed that person. And even if I might not know what I bring to the table, I knew that I had the drive. And moving to LA all alone, this is going to be my first trip abroad. And I'm going to be all by myself, just talking to people on the podcast, building credibility and things like that. So when I was thinking about DMing 300 people and asking them if I can work for free and, just to get my foot in the door in the industry, and, taking a side job at Burger King or something. So I wanted to know, when I was approaching people, how would I go about it? I wasn't sure what I bring to the table, but like you said, ambition is...
I love it. No, ambition and the ability to just be resilient in the face of rejection. You don't need 300 people to say yes. You might just need one.
Yeah.
And that could change your career, could change your life. And that's what I teach my kids, even though they're young.
Yeah.
It just takes one yes to make the other 100 or 300 worthwhile. So I love that attitude. It's the right attitude.
Thank you. And would you have some advice for me? Like, I'm moving to LA, something about the city or anything like that. Do you think that I could work on?
Man, Santa Monica is a great place to work and live. I think Venice is a great place to work and live as a younger person. Mm-hmm. There's parts of downtown that are interesting, that are creative and artsy.
I looked at this place near the Staples Center and Koreatown.
Staples Center, you know, it's a lot more of an interesting place to live than it used to be.
One of the companies I really admire was Iconic. Have you heard about it?
Yeah, I've heard of them.
Yeah, the founders are Mark and Cole, are really like aggressively amazing people, and they have Scooter Braun and Gary as the investors. And just amazing human beings is what I would bet on. And I also had a conversation with them and a very close friend of theirs. So a meeting I could get with them. And I figured out they live near the Staples Center because they would keep posting up stories. So I was trying to get like my place there so I would have to like spend less on commute and stuff. And that's why I thought they were like a place near the Staples Center.
Yeah, I mean, I think once you're here, it's tapping the people you know. Now I'm in your network. You can leverage me. We'll get Mike on board and Logan.
Thank you so much.
And using us as a launch pad. And, you know, I think LA has a lot to offer. It's a big city. And so it's important to have a couple people that you know that you can trust and work with and start there and then branch out.
And would you have any recommendation for like a side job I could take? Because I was thinking I would like work for free because that is all I have to offer, you know, my time, versus on the side I would have to like, you know, hustle and make money.
I mean, it depends on your skills. I mean, I've seen people that do freelance creative, photography, graphic design, you know, marketing services. I think it really depends on your skills and your background and kind of what you're looking for.
Right.
But those are a couple that kind of pop to mind.
I see. And if I would ever want to work for like, you know, Mike and Logan, would you think that, you know, just based on the conversation we've had, would you think that there's something I need to work on or something that you like or something like that, just like an opinion?
Let me think about that for Mike and get back to you, but I do think we can get you in front of Mike and make the introduction. And I think being here in LA is the way to do it. So make it happen. Make that move happen.
Yes,
and
it's just so much paperwork
we'll get a meeting set up with Mike for sure.
It's just a lot of paperwork I'm taking care of right now. It's been happening for 2 months. And as soon as that's done, you know, it's like just a one-way flight.
Of course. Good for you.
Thank you so much. And
I'm looking forward to seeing you here.
Thank you so much. That means so much to me. Thank you. The last question I would have is like, it's like the feedback session where something that you want to talk about, something you want to put out there.
What do I want to put out there? No, I just want to encourage people to trust their instinct, to trust their gut. If they have a desire to start a business, they should.
Yeah.
And to believe in themselves, to never give up, and to consider making big personal changes in order to get what you really want in life. For me, it was quitting drinking. And at the time, I didn't think that was something that I needed to do. But it turned out it was the most important decision I made that laid the path for me to be a successful entrepreneur. And so I think people need to look and reflect as Gary on it and to figure out, oops, let me see here, speaker off. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Okay. I think to do a self-audit and figure out, you know, what are the changes you need to make personally or on a lifestyle basis that might be, you know, preventing you from accomplishing the things you really want.
And would you have any questions for me? Anything that you want to ask?
Yeah, I mean, tell me how I can be a resource to you. Tell me what it is you need to do to get to LA. And if I can help you do that, great. And then once you're here, you know, tell me how I can be a resource for you, and I'd be happy to.
Thank you so much. One of the things we're working on is like the paperwork where we need an invitation from a person who's already living in the States. saying that, we're calling this person so and so. I'm taking a travel visa because you can't get the work permit. It requires
Sure.
a set of another thing. So my dad would be helping me out for like a month, and uske baad, after that, I would just have to hustle it out and live on my own for another like 5 to 6 months. Is like the validity of
Sure.
the visa. So one thing would be the invitation if you would want to be up for it, where you just write like, I know so and so person, and I'm inviting this person here. If that is something that you would want to do.
Happy to help. Yeah, send me the requirements for that letter, and I'm happy to do that.
Thank you so much. And then, once I'm out there, just, because the thing that would make me the happiest would be to work with someone I admire, because I just want to learn,
Sure.
develop my skill set and really become an asset before I would want to start my own thing. So maybe, just an intern or an assistant, or I don't know, like I said, what I bring to the table, but I've just got my blood to give. That's like the number one thing I have. So
I got you covered. Yeah, we're actually opening an office in Sherman Oaks right now. You should come out, see our space, be my business partner, and let's talk about it.
100%. Let's do that. Thank you so much. That means so much to me. I can't tell you.
You're very welcome, Devika. Thank you.
And last question. Sorry. Do you think we could have done something to improve the podcast?
No, I think it's great. I think you've got a good format. They were great questions, and I think you know exactly what you're doing.
Thank you. And what made you say yes?
I think you were persistent, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you found a channel that is easy for me to communicate on, which is Instagram.
Yeah.
And you followed up and were polite.
Thank you.
Of course.
Right. Because I texted Marissa and I did not hear back, so I wasn't sure if you were into it. But I thought I should follow up.
No problem.
I'm so thankful for your time and everything that happened.
You're very welcome.
All right, Darren.
Yeah,
Thank you so much. Have a great day. Bye.
Talk soon.
Bye.
So I have a question for you.
Yes.
So is this going to be a video interview? And then if so, I need to put my phone up a certain...
You call and we just screen record the whole thing and put it up on YouTube?
Okay.
Yes.
I do have a table here.
Okay.
So where are you based?
I'm in India.
Awesome. This work?
Yes, perfect.
So you did an interview with Mike?
No, I did not. He's someone I really look up to, and one of the strategies that I learned from Gary was when you're trying to reach someone inaccessible, you try to network everyone around them and kind of build credibility and stuff, and that is something I've been working on.
We'll definitely tell Mike to start paying attention to the real podcasters and to get his ass in gear.
Thank you so much.
Stop being a fucking punk.
That means a lot. Thank you so much. I see you follow...
Yeah, no.
I see you follow Gary. Do you follow his content a lot?
I do. I know Gary. I mean, I don't know him, but I definitely know who he is, and Ty Lopez and Grant and all these guys that are influencers. And yeah.
I see. I started this podcast inspired by him. He spoke a lot about how people are the biggest ROI and things like that, and how building relationships is like the biggest asset you can have.
Sure.
So,
no, I think he's definitely done a lot of good work and inspires a lot of people.
Yeah, 100%.
I have a question. Is this part of the podcast right now, or are we going to ease into it?
Yeah, we just hit record, so it's super chill. It's like a documentation,
Okay,
so it's not like something super well produced or anything like that.
Okay, no worries.
Yeah.
I mean, we can go into it if you want to just hit record. We can go into it.
Yeah. So now this thing is all screen recording. So I would probably
okay.
We'll just roll with it.
Sounds good.